Chapter 391. Yang Yi was conflicted. Should he hand that woman over? Boss Yang, you'd better think about it carefully. Yang Nian can't be handed over. This is for the sake of the entire human race. The items on her are very precious. If we hand her over, how can we develop a drug to suppress or even eradicate the zombie virus if she's in danger? She's very powerful. I'm afraid she won't be willing. Yang Yi had already agreed with this approach. He had been tolerating that woman, and he had hit Nyan Nyan 2 days ago. He didn't know when he would want to kill Nyan Nyan again. She couldn't blame him. She could only blame herself for being too insensible and vicious. The old professor smiled. We've developed so many drugs. Can't we just give her an injection and make her superpower disappear temporarily? Didn't you say she's very powerful? When her superpower recovers, it'll be easy for her to escape. Yang Nyan said, isn't that too cruel? Nyan Nyan, you're too kind. Yang Yi touched Yang Nyan's face and finally made up his mind. Okay, let her go out on Nyan Nyan's behalf, but this matter needs to be done in secret. We can't let those people know. Shao Qing and Qin Jiaran had a very good relationship with that woman. If she knew what he was doing, she would definitely stop him. In the afternoon, Tang Guo was lying on the sofa taking a nap. She felt a pain in her arm and quickly opened her eyes to meet Yang Yi's gaze. What are you doing? Yang Yi threw the syringe into the trash can without saying a word. You brought this upon yourself. If you hadn't treated Nyan Nyan like that, I wouldn't have had this idea. My superpower is gone. Actually, this thing was useless to Tang Guo, but she still pretended to be very weak and looked at Yang Yi with a sneer. What do you want to do? The Sunset Base wants Nyan Nyan. I can't hand her over. You're also very special. You've done so many things to let Nyan Nyan down. This time, take it as atonement for her. If you can survive, we'll be even in the future. When you're willing to return to the base, there'll still be a place here. Tang Guo shook her head and said calmly, Ah Yi, did you really never intend to believe me and think that everything Yang Nyan said was true? Yang Yi was stunned. He also wanted to believe her, but that was all in the past. Ah Yi, I thought you knew me very well. Just a misunderstanding is enough to make you not trust me at all. The woman's eyes dimmed. I shouldn't have loved you anymore. I fell in love with the wrong person. You stopped trusting me a long time ago. I don't know why I'm staying here. She stumbled out of bed, put on her jacket, and walked out. She turned around and said, Ah Yi, you've lost someone who loved you very much. Someone who loved you so much that she didn't even care about her own life. She used to be a noble lady who learned how to blow off zombies' heads because of you. A person like her will disappear from today onwards. She said to the people outside, take me away. Hand me over and your Sunshine Base will be at peace for a while. For a while. System, the host is angry. After receiving Tang Guo, the people from the Sunset Base only hurriedly sized her up. They didn't confirm anything before retreating with their people. This made the people from the Sunshine Base who escorted Tang Guo out feel strange. But no matter what, the base was saved. Actually, the person who came to receive Tang Guo was Shi Cheng's loyal subordinate. Seeing that it was Tang Guo, he really heaved a sigh of relief. If Yang Yi really handed Yang Nyan over, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. He really didn't understand why his boss had to take so many detours to chase a woman. Chapter 392. Boss, why did you hand over Tang Guo? Shao Qing's eyes widened. Do you know what it means to hand her over? She'll die. She'll be dissected for research. Yang Yi, you've gone overboard. Qin Jiaran's cold eyes were filled with anger. I misjudged you. The former members of the Sunshine Squad felt a chill in their hearts. They had been sent out for a mission today because Yang Yi had sent them away. He was afraid that they would stop him from handing over Tang Guo. Qin Jiaran took off her badge and threw it at Yang Yi's face. From today onwards, I'm no longer a member of the Sunshine Base. Where are you going? Yang Yi couldn't help asking. Qin Jiaran sneered. I'm going to find Tang Guo. I won't watch her die. Shao Qing was a bit absent-minded. He was in a mess. He wasn't as decisive as Qin Jiaran. Actually, He had targeted Tang Guo partly because of Yang Nian. He had always had a crush on Yang Nian, but Yang Nian didn't like him. She liked Yang Yi. He had chosen to silently bless and protect her. Now, he was suddenly a bit confused. He had never thought that Boss would hand Tang Guo over to the Sunset Base for Yang Nian. There were many biomedical researchers in that base. In the apocalypse, where there were no human rights, they might be dissected. Boss, go get Tang Guo back. Can you do it? She'll die. I've already handed her over. They won't return her, Yang Yi said coldly. It wasn't worth it to start a war for Tang Guo. Xiao Qing suddenly laughed and staggered out. He casually took off the badge on his shoulder and threw it on the ground. A crisp sound rang out, causing people's hearts to sink to the bottom of the valley. He was really disappointed. Had Tang Guo really done many wrong things? No, she hadn't. The only thing she had done wrong was with Yang Nian. The Sunshine Squad's rapid development was inseparable from the fact that the base was so strong. Boss didn't consider anything and handed her over for Yang Nian. He was too heartless. Qin Jiaran was right. He was too ashamed to stay in a base like this. He had to save Tang Guo, even if it meant risking his life. Miss Tang, are you hungry? Do you want to eat something first? The car is driving a little fast. Is it bumpy? You should have been injected with a drug that makes your special ability disappear temporarily. It won't take long for you to recover, so don't worry too much. Yuan Ping smiled fawningly. Fortunately, I saw you before. Boss said that if I see you, no matter what the conditions are, as long as you are willing, I will bring you back. In fact, his boss had asked him to pick up Miss Tang, but he couldn't say it out loud. I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. Tang Guo's face was calm. She didn't look sad at all, which made Yuan Ping feel very strange. Is your boss Shi Cheng? Yes. Shi Cheng. Oh. Tang Guo chuckled. Why didn't he come? Well. Yuan Ping scratched his head. Boss is very busy. Wasn't he afraid of being exposed and causing unnecessary trouble? Tang Guo smiled and raised her eyebrows. Your boss likes me, doesn't he? Yes. Yuan Ping didn't deny it. Boss likes you a lot and even prepared a room for you. He accidentally said too much. Tang Guo was in a good mood. I'm a very picky person. I used to be a rich young lady. I won't stay in a room I'm not satisfied with. Yuan Ping was dumbfounded. What did that mean? Did you prepare a dress for me? Tang Guo pointed at her simple sportswear. Actually, I prefer beautiful dresses. The more gorgeous, the better. They look especially noble. Chapter 393. When they arrived at the Sunset Base, Yuan Ping got out of the car and felt a little dizzy. Didn't Boss say that Miss Tang might not be willing? Why did he feel that Miss Tang was very willing and all her questions were on point? She was a person who knew how to enjoy life. Shi Cheng was already waiting at the door. Seeing the woman jump out of the car, he controlled his excitement and quickly walked to her. Can you stay this time? Tang Guo looked at him with a smile. Do you like me? Yes. He stood ramrod straight, as if he was waiting for her inspection. This made Tang Guo's previous depressed mood swept away, and her whole body became warm. How much do you like it? A lot. Oh. As if he was afraid that Tang Guo would not believe him, Shi Cheng quickly said, you can make the decisions in the base in the future. Yuan Ping wiped his cold sweat. Boss, do you have to do this? Is this how you chase a woman? Host, loyal dog, you have potential. You can wait to be spoiled to the heavens without any pressure. The system said excitedly. It really liked loyal dogs the most. Okay, since you are so sincere, I won't stand on ceremony. What? Yuan Ping was a little dumbfounded. This woman really wanted it. I'll leave the base to you from now on. Yuan Ping, this woman. Shi Cheng smiled and hesitated for a moment before holding her hand. Feeling that she did not struggle, he was secretly happy and his eyes were very serious. Then are you willing to give me a chance? I've already accepted the dowry. What do you think? Shi Cheng was surprised. He thought that he would see a desperate woman, but he did not expect to see such a surprise. He hesitated for a moment. What about Yang Yi? This person she had always loved deeply. I forgot. Tang Guo said straightforwardly. From the moment I walked out of the sunshine base, Yang Yi will no longer exist in my life. How is it? Are you satisfied? Satisfied, very satisfied. He did not ask for so much. He did not know when he fell in love with her, but as long as she was willing to stay by his side, he was willing to fight for a peaceful world in this chaotic world, just for her. It turned out that he was reborn for her. Shi Cheng felt satisfied. I'll like you in the future, okay? No man could resist the sweet nothings of a beautiful woman. Even Shi Cheng, who had a good character, felt his heart race when he saw her serious and beautiful eyes. I like you more than Yang Yi, Tang Guo added, okay? Of course, Yang Yi was at a loss. He didn't know how to answer. Tang Guo couldn't help but stand on tiptoe and pat his head. You're so cute. You're so likable. Yuan Ping, boss has become a puppy? Looking at the silly smile on his face, he seemed to be quite happy. I heard from Yuan Ping that you prepared a room for me, right? A blush appeared on Shi Cheng's handsome face. He held her hand and refused to let go. He led her into the base with relaxed steps. Yes. It's specially prepared for you. Let me show you. Sure. Shi Cheng was satisfied. He didn't expect such a pleasant surprise at all. He really didn't know this woman well, whether it was in his previous life or this life. But it didn't matter anymore. She had entered the base, so she was his woman. He had enough time to get to know her. What he wanted to do was to control a peaceful world for her. He wanted to love her, protect her, and like her. Yes, this was the meaning of his life. He didn't know why he was so excited. Chapter 394. Big Boss, is this really Miss Tang? Yuan Ping was still doubting his life. I've heard of Miss Tang's name. It's said that she's very strong in the sunshine base. She doesn't even need to hit twice. She even beat up Yang Yi in the base before. Yuan Ping swallowed his saliva. So the woman who asked them for a lot of beautiful dresses, shoes, makeup, and jewelry was really the same Tang Guo who beat people up for no reason? Shi Cheng glanced at Yuan Ping coldly. Do you have a problem with that? No, no problem. It's just that, Yuan Ping complained. She's different from the rumors. Shi Cheng changed his posture and leaned against the sofa. He said happily, she's a rich young lady. She should be cherished and protected. It's just that someone doesn't cherish her. Fortunately, that person didn't cherish her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a chance. From today onwards, she'll be in charge of beauty. Yuan Ping was at a loss. Was his boss swapped out or possessed? Was this guy without principles really the decisive and ruthless Shi Cheng who didn't even care about women? Half an hour later, the door to Tang Guo's room opened. Yuan Ping and Shi Cheng looked over at the same time and were stunned. She was beautiful, but surviving in the apocalypse, even a woman would choose to dress simply. She had just changed into a dress, put on a pair of beautiful high heels and put on some light makeup, but she looked completely different. It was as if this wasn't the apocalypse, but a socialite who was about to attend a dinner party. Shi Cheng quickly came back to his senses. He got up and walked over to her, saying, "You're so pretty." He couldn't even bear to look away. Yuan Ping couldn't bear to look at her. Where was his big boss's image? Where was his dignity? I'll ask them to pick out the best clothes for you from the supplies we collect. Shi Cheng thought for a while and added, make a list of what you want. I'll ask the people underground to prepare it. Tang Guo grabbed Shi Cheng's hand and led him into the room. Yuan Ping stood impatiently at the door and finally left silently. His boss had silently fed him a wave of dog food. Shi Cheng was a little nervous. Although this room was decorated by him personally, it was the first time that the two of them were in the same room. Of course, his expression did not change, as if he was used to it. You should know who I am, right? Shi Cheng was stunned for a moment and nodded. I know. She was a zombie. This was what she had said in her previous life. Tang Guo raised her eyebrows slightly. Then do you still like me? I don't like you because of who you are. Tang Guo was amused. Oh, you're quite good with words. No wonder you're so likable. Was he good with words? Shecheng was a little suspicious. He couldn't help but want to say nice things to her in front of her. Seeing that she was happy made him feel happy. This beautiful zombie was poisonous. He had been poisoned by her and had become a completely different person. I have a plan. Tangwa took out a proposal from the drawer and glanced at Shecheng. Take a look. If there are no problems, I'll leave this matter to you, okay? Good, good, good. Of course, he could do anything for him. Host, do you see the little tail? The system clicked its tongue and shook it happily. Tangwa smiled but didn't say anything. She stared at Shecheng as he read the proposal. Seeing all kinds of surprise flash across his face, she crossed her arms and waited for his response. Chapter 395. She had written the proposal a long time ago. There were more than 20 pages in total. With Shecheng's eyesight, he could finish reading it in a few minutes. However, it took him a full hour to put the proposal down. He looked at the woman in front of him in shock. Sure enough, he didn't know her well enough. A woman who could write such a proposal was really a gem. He even picked it up. You can make zombies not bite people? Of course. Shecheng's eyes lit up. They can eventually evolve into a form like yours, which means they can regain the appearance and consciousness of a normal person. They can even remember their former identity. Yes. Shecheng's heart pounded. He then said, "Why don't we just take over the world?" This woman deserved to stand at the top. He wanted everyone in the world to call her Her Majesty. He wanted to be her most loyal knight who would follow and protect her forever. Tangwa smiled faintly. No, it's too troublesome. I don't have the energy to save the world. Let the righteous do it. If I steal their jobs, there's no point in them living. Shecheng couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't see any ambition in her eyes. Then, why did she want zombies to take over a part of the world? There's no reason. I just want to do it. We're all humans. Why can't zombies take over a part of the world? I'm a zombie too. I can't work with humans to exterminate the zombies, right? Of course, what I hope even more is for those weak humans to see the incomparably powerful zombies living in a paradise, living a stable life every day. Meanwhile, they have to think hard about how to survive the attacks of all kinds of mutated animals and plants. Tangwa raised her head slightly and stared at Shecheng. I want to see how they look when they come to the zombies for help. It must be interesting, right? Shecheng was stunned. Was this a bad taste? Zombies have never been the most dangerous creatures in the apocalypse. You know that, right? Shecheng was stunned again. She knew that too? Yes. In his previous life, the zombies were the first to be eliminated. However, the humans who lived here still had to worry about how to survive every day. All the animals and plants in the world had mutated, and some powerful monsters had even been born. Even Espers had no way to eliminate them. At least, before he died, these mutant creatures were not extinct. They were only driven to some desolate places, and occasionally, they would still harm people. So I want to build a zombie empire. It will be the only paradise on this planet. Okay, Shecheng said. I'll help you. Your Majesty the Queen. He couldn't help but hold her hand and kiss the back of her hand, looking serious and sincere. Tangwa stared at the familiar action and was a little stunned. She couldn't help but say to the system, "He's really like a human." The system was a little speechless. It was as if Shecheng wasn't human. Of course, he understood the host's words. There was once a person who liked to kiss the back of her hand the most, and he looked so serious and sincere. Tangwa took out a map, glanced at Shecheng and asked, "Can I trust you?" "Of course." "Then I'll leave this great task to you. The list here is all evolved zombies. Among them, Wu Chu has completely recovered her human form. The other zombies haven't evolved to that extent yet. They're all under your care." Shecheng didn't expect her to trust him so much. This woman was full of secrets. System, the host is really good at being a hands-off boss. Chapter 396. Boss, there are a few people outside. They want us to hand over sister-in-law. Shecheng was combing the hair of the woman in front of him. He glanced at the woman who seemed to have fallen asleep in his arms. His face turned cold and his voice was low. Who are they? Qin Jiaran and Shao Qing were former members of the Sunshine team. Yuan Ping looked at his boss who was holding a wooden comb and his lips twitched. They seemed to be here to save sister-in-law. What he didn't say was that ever since sister-in-law came to the Sunset Base, many people in the Sunshine Base knew that she was handed over to them as Yang Nian. He didn't expect sister-in-law to have such a high status in the Sunshine Base. He also didn't expect that there would be people who would come to the Sunset Base just for her. It was a place of no return. They're good people. We can use them. Tangwa opened her eyes and said with a smile. Cheng, I brought you a few good men. Let them in. Yuan Ping hurriedly left. He didn't ask for Cheng's opinion. It was useless. Boss already said that this woman's words were an imperial edict. Before long, Shao Qing and the others were brought in. They thought that they would see a tragic scene. They might not even be able to walk out of the Sunset Base. They didn't expect that. The person they wanted to save was wearing a luxurious dress. Her hair was tied up and she wore beautiful gemstone earrings, necklaces, and bracelets. At present, she was leaning in the arms of a cold, handsome man, and this man was helping her peel an orange. Shao Qing thought, did he come to the wrong place? Qin Jiaran's lips twitched. Did he come to the wrong place? Or was he dreaming? The others were confused. Tangwa ate a piece of orange and looked up. Why are you here? We're here to save you so that you won't be cut into pieces. Shao Qing opened his mouth but didn't say anything. This woman was living so comfortably here. Even if he didn't understand, he was a bit suspicious. He looked at Cheng carefully and suddenly remembered that this was the man who wanted to take Tangwa away a few years ago. Shao Qing's expression was complicated. What was going on? If he had known that she was here to enjoy life, he wouldn't have been so worried. Looks like you're doing pretty well. Qin Jiaran glanced at Cheng and then at the various things in the room. She could tell that they were all meticulously prepared. She suddenly realized something. Could it be that Tangwa had predicted this day would come? So, her guess was right. Tangwa stayed in Sunshine Base to put on a show with a purpose. This scene was too realistic. What was the purpose? I heard you guys left Sunshine Base? Tangwa asked. Shao Qing's face darkened. Yang Yi sent us away. Otherwise, we wouldn't have allowed him to do that. I know. I don't blame you. After all, you often freeload off my food. I didn't do anything wrong to you. If you really don't stop me, then you're ingrates. Shao Qing, why did he feel that this woman had changed so much? If she used to be taciturn, she seemed to have let go of herself now. He glanced at Cheng. Had he been spoiled by this guy all this while? We're short of people here. Do you want to stay? Tangwa asked with a serious look in her eyes. Stay. You won't regret it. Shao Qing and the others looked at each other. Qin Jiaran was straightforward. Okay, I'll stay. Okay. Yuan Ping, arrange a good room for Jiaran. Chapter 397. In the end, Shao Qing and the others chose to stay. They couldn't accept Yang Yi handing over Tangwa. When they saw how powerful the Sunset Base was, they were shocked. Perhaps it was the right choice for them to stay. They thought that Cheng just liked Tangwa a lot and doted on her like a princess. Later, they realized that he wasn't doting on the little princess. He was flattering the queen. Similarly, they realized that Tangwa was surprisingly gentle to Cheng. She didn't have to do anything, but every time it was meal time, she would always meticulously prepare a set meal for Cheng. In the afternoon, there would be all kinds of refreshments. When Cheng was working in the office, she would sit on the sofa and read a book. Many times, they would see this scene when they went in. They used to think that before Tangwa gave up on Yang Yi, she was already good enough to him. After seeing how Tangwa treated Cheng, they could see the difference. Now that they thought about it carefully, she seemed to be very perfunctory towards Yang Yi. One day, Cheng called all of them to his office. Tangwa was there too. This time, she was the one who spoke. You need to move to another place. This concerns our future. Xiaoqing and the others were a little curious. Could it be that there was an important mission? Tang Guo didn't say much. She held Xiaoqing's arm and gestured for them to follow. Everyone got into a car. After driving for about 3 hours, they arrived at a remote place filled with zombies. After getting out of the car, Xiaoqing and the others felt their legs go weak. Although they were very strong, there were hordes of zombies in this place. Was this a joke? Soon, they realized that something was wrong. The zombies in this place were strange. Why was there a big castle in front? They couldn't help but take a closer look. They realized that this was a castle complex. There were also newly built buildings around it. Not far away, they also saw green vegetables and fruits hanging on the trees. They widened their eyes. Why did these zombies look like normal people? Qin Jiaren's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't help but remember the question that Tang Guo once asked her. Could zombies coexist with humans? At that time, she thought it was impossible. Now, she was only shocked. If zombies really had consciousness and could control themselves not to bite people, then it was really possible. Everyone's heart was pounding, and endless possibilities filled their minds. Are you surprised? Of course, he was very surprised. Xiaoqing's expression was rather calm. This was not his first time here. In fact, when he first came here, he was also very shocked. He originally thought that according to the plan, he would need many years to complete it. Unexpectedly, she had been carrying out this plan for a long time. All the items here were extremely precious in the post-apocalyptic world. Especially those fruits and vegetables that grew normally. You will be working here from now on. Tang Guo said in a flat tone, to build our zombie empire together, as if she was building a small house with blocks. Zombie empire? Xiaoqing didn't understand. Why was it a zombie empire? Tang Guo seemed to know his doubts and answered, I forgot to tell you that I'm a zombie. What? This time, not only Xiaoqing, but even the Qin family members were stunned. She's a zombie. No, how could she be a zombie? When were you bitten? Xiaoqing asked weakly. Why didn't they notice? Weren't zombies supposed to not bite her? Also, if she was a zombie, why was she like a normal person? Chapter 398. Xiao Guo, are you kidding me? How can you be a zombie? Tang Guo smiled. I'm not kidding. I'm really a zombie. Xiaoqing's mouth twitched. He didn't believe it. Guo is indeed a zombie. Xiaoqing spoke up for her. Looking at their puzzled expressions, he continued, she was a zombie from the moment you met her. Xiaoqing and the others widened their eyes. If you want to ask why she became a zombie, you have to start from when Guo left the villa to get medicine for Yang Yi. Speaking of this, Xiaoqing's heart tightened and he felt uncomfortable. What kind of dog was that Yang Yi? She was bitten by a zombie in the pharmacy to get medicine for Yang Yi. Xiaoqing said briefly, as for why she hid it, you should know. Xiaoqing felt bitter and he couldn't help but ask, then what about the jade pendant? It's mine. Tang Guo didn't care. Yang Yan exchanged it from me with a box of penicillin. As for why it looks different, it's because she dripped blood on it and the jade pendant changed its appearance. No one can use it except her. So, she's lying? Qin Jiaren asked. She didn't doubt Tang Guo's words. She didn't like Yang Yan from the beginning and always felt that she was a little exaggerated. She performed well, but she had a lot of ulterior motives. Tang Guo smiled. Yes, why? Do you believe me now? Xiaoqing and the others looked at each other. Did she still have to lie at this time? They were all mourning for Yang Yi. He missed such a person. No matter how she explained, Yang Yi and the others didn't believe her. This was really a slap in the face. Let's go and see our zombie empire. Xiaoqing hesitated. Xiao Guo, do you still want Yang Yi to know the truth? That's not important. Tang Guo glanced at the nervous Xiaoqing and held his hand. Even if he knows, it won't change the result. It will only make him regret it for the rest of his life. Of course, I hope he will regret it for the rest of his life. At this moment, Qin Jiaren finally understood. Tang Guo had been acting for so long to leave a deep impression on Yang Yi. When the truth came out in the future, Yang Yi would be in so much pain. This woman was really ruthless. However, she especially admired this kind of woman. You guys have good foresight. Fortunately, I put in a lot of effort back then. Very soon, you will know that this choice is related to your future. You will be very happy. Xiao Qing and the others were speechless. She really knew how to read people's minds. Just the scene in front of them was enough to make them rejoice. After Xiao Qing and the others entered the castle, they were assigned tasks. Tang Guo and Shi Cheng then returned to the Sunset Base. At the same time, the Sunset Base released a message. The captured Yang Nian had been sent to the laboratory and was currently undergoing a very important experiment. The news that was purposely released quickly spread to the other bases. Yang Yi heard the news on the third day. When he heard it, he was obviously stunned and asked subconsciously, "She didn't run away?" She was so powerful. Once her ability was restored, it should be easy for her to escape. No, it said that she was sent to the laboratory without any resistance. I don't know if she's still alive. Hearing the news from his subordinates, Yang Yi felt his chest tighten as an indescribable feeling filled his heart. He had been thinking about that woman all day. Was she dead? Would she die? He couldn't get rid of it. Chapter 399. Ever since he found out that Tang Guo had been sent to the laboratory, Yang Yi couldn't help but pay attention to this news. He still hadn't heard of her escape. As for Xiao Qing and the others, ever since they broke into the Sunset Base, there had been no news of them. The spies around the base couldn't find any information about them. Yang Yi felt a little powerless. He couldn't sleep well at night. He actually dreamed of Tang Guo. Yang Nian quickly noticed Yang Yi's condition and couldn't help being concerned. "Ah Yi, what's wrong with you recently?" "Nothing." Yang Yi's eyes were red. It was obvious that he hadn't rested well. "I'm just worried about the base. Isn't our base developing quite well? We're watering it with diluted spiritual spring water and we have fresh vegetables." Since the space had been exposed, Yang Nian planned to take it out. At least, she had to let the Sunshine Base develop. She knew the ending of the book. The Sunshine Base would be able to control the world in the end. "Boss Yang, it's bad. Animals and plants have mutated. There are also unknown powerful creatures. Many mutants have died to them. If you're careless, you'll be eaten by them." Yang Yi stood up. "What are they?" "They should be lickers. They have long tongues. If you're careless, you'll be wrapped up by their tongues. Mutants who are licked by their tongues will have their skin scraped off. Their hearing is very sharp. If there's any movement, they'll be able to detect it. If you're fast or slow, you might die in their mouths." The person who spoke was sweating. Zombies aren't their match. Also, we found that many plants have mutated. They're as ferocious as lickers. Some animals have also started to mutate. They're very powerful. Only mutants can destroy them. "The second evolution," Yang Nian said. This was mentioned in the book. Because she knew that humans could survive this crisis, she wasn't that worried. Yang Yi didn't know and didn't dare to delay. If he didn't deal with these and let these mutated animals and plants continue to develop, the survival circle of humans would become smaller and smaller. In less than 2 days, many bases contacted Yang Yi, saying that they needed everyone to deal with the new lickers and mutated animals and plants. For this cooperation, they needed to discuss together. In the end, they set the location of the meeting at the Sunshine Base. Because Yang Nian was there. Previously, everyone thought that Yang Yi would hand Yang Nian over, but paper couldn't hide the truth. Yang Nian was a living person, and it didn't take long for people to find out that she was still in the Sunshine Base. No one was surprised by this result. However, there was no response from the Sunset Base, which made them feel very strange. This time, they had also sent news to the Sunset Base. However, on the day of the meeting, the people from the Sunset Base did not come. They were actually relieved that the Sunset Base didn't come. They were afraid that the Sunset Base would fight with the Sunshine Base. In the end, a few bases reached an agreement to jointly deal with the mutated creatures that appeared during the second evolution. Yang Yi didn't have time to think about Tang Guo. He was so busy every day. On the other hand, The days at Sunset Base were unprecedentedly peaceful. When the lickers and mutated animals and plants appeared, they were a little panicked. Later on, the woman who was doted on by their boss brought back a group of zombies. These zombies were very strange. They were fast, powerful, and had a mind of their own. Soon, they exterminated the mutated animals and plants. Chapter 400. Since the apocalypse, what was the most frightening thing for them? Zombies. Now, their mood was very complicated. Who knew that they would be protected by zombies one day? Yes, it was protection. Whether it was the paranormals in the base or the ordinary people, they all had complicated feelings. Looking at those jumping high and tearing up the mutated animals and plants with their bare hands, their eyelids twitched. If they had encountered this group of zombies at the beginning, they would have lost their lives long ago. They have regained their consciousness. Tangwa stared at those people with complicated expressions and smiled. They are from the zombie empire. In the zombie empire, there are only conscious zombies. They have the memories of their lives. Except for their slightly ugly appearance, they are the same as ordinary people. Their thinking is also the same as human beings. In simple words, you are all human beings. Tangwa looked at those people whose faces gradually returned to normal, and some of them were curious, and continued, they eat the same food as us. In the zombie empire, eating raw meat and biting people without any reason is a violation of the zombie empire's law. You will be executed directly. At this moment, many people were curious about where the zombie empire was. Their final evolution will be perfect. They will have the same appearance as ordinary people, but have powerful strength that you don't have. Tangwa continued, among them, there may be your relatives. You can look for them. At this moment, everyone was in an uproar. If the zombies no longer bite people and regained their consciousness, and their relatives were also there, then it would be perfect. Don't be afraid. Come and try. You will live together in the future. Tangwa's smile made people's scalp tingle. But curiosity overcame fear. Some people were brave enough to come out and look for them in the zombie crowd. One of the braver children couldn't help but pull on a slightly better-looking zombie and ask, Uncle Zombie, I want to find my mother. I don't know if she's still around. My mother's name is Lee Sue. She's from the West City. The zombie who was asked looked at the child and said in a stiff tone, there are many people called Lee Sue. You can ask more. The child became a lot bolder and asked again. Some zombies' mouths and tongues were damaged, so they couldn't speak. But they still kindly gestured for the child to continue asking. Many people were moved by this scene. They had no choice but to abandon their loved ones who had turned into zombies. If their loved ones had become zombies, but they were still conscious and didn't bite people, they still wanted them to live. Living together didn't seem so difficult. One after another, many people came forward to look for their loved ones in the zombie crowd. Although many of the zombies had changed beyond recognition, they still had the memories of normal people, so they quickly recognized their relatives who were looking for them. The close contact between humans and zombies this time was very successful. Shacheng held the woman's hand. Guoguo's idea is very good. It was perfect. The lickers have already appeared. Now, we need them to move out and bring back the zombies they know. We need them to understand that zombies are a very cute creature. Tangwa smiled. They are the kindest creatures in the apocalypse. Yuan Ping chuckled behind them. When he found out that Tangwa was actually a zombie, he thought more than once that his boss's taste was really heavy. I've done experiments before. Mutated animals and plants can be used as food for zombies to promote their evolution. The only threat to us is those creatures like the lickers. However, as long as the zombie race evolves quickly, they won't be able to threaten our safety. Chapter 401. The ground was getting more and more dangerous. Both ordinary people and superpowered people could be swallowed by unknown creatures if they were careless. They had no chance to react at all. Fortunately, many bases worked together to protect the survival circle of human beings. However, this was not a problem in the Sunset Base. Now, the people in the Sunset Base were used to being with zombies all day long. They were strong and taciturn. They would not attack humans like ordinary zombies. Among them were their relatives. Tangguo said that as long as they found their relatives who had turned into zombies, she would be able to help them regain their consciousness. This made the people in the Sunset Base unprecedentedly excited. They went out with zombies to find other zombies. As the base developed, there were fewer and fewer zombies. Suddenly, many people in the Sunset Base realized that the zombies that they had been afraid of seemed to have gone extinct. Have they all been swallowed by the new mutant creatures? Then what about our living environment? Many people were worried. They were not happy at all that the zombies were gone. Yang Yi also looked serious. Are there no more zombies? I see 2 or 3 sporadically, but they disappear after 2 days. Yang Nian panicked. How could the zombies disappear? The book clearly said that the biological researchers used the spirit spring to develop a drug to kill zombies. That was why the zombies disappeared. How could they disappear? Boss Yang, there are no more zombies now. It's useless to continue developing a drug to kill zombies. Why don't we study how to deal with those mutant creatures instead? Metahumans were dying every day, lickers, and some unknown life forms that suddenly emerged from the ground had become a huge threat to their survival. Okay. Without zombies, studying drugs was useless. Many bases were working hard to study how to deal with the lickers, mutated animals and plants, and new terrifying creatures. The zombie empire had quietly risen, and they were crazily encroaching on the land, driving away all the terrifying creatures. The land that was originally damaged and full of devastation was gradually recovering, becoming the land of the zombie empire. When the zombie empire appeared, the Sunset Base disappeared and was completely included as a member of the zombie empire. The zombie empire was officially renamed the Sunset Empire. The buildings of the Sunset Empire were unified and sturdy castles. Tang Guo had asked Emmanuel for the construction method of these castles. The construction method was not complicated, but it was very practical. It could be used locally and was suitable for large-scale human habitation. After the land had been expanded to a certain extent, she stopped expanding. Just as she said, she only wanted to build a paradise for zombies, not to popularize it and save all of humanity. She didn't have the patience or the kindness to do so. The development of a planet was not something that could be changed overnight, and it was not something that could be easily changed by anyone. System, excuses, they're all excuses. The host just wants to see a joke. I've already been very kind. At the very least, I've established this pure land and didn't reject them from seeking protection. Tang Guo was leisurely sitting on the recliner, sipping her fruit juice. This kind of life suits my identity. When Qin Jiaran walked in and heard this, she was a little speechless. If the people outside knew about this, they would be furious. Qin Jiaran gave a rare smile and whispered mysteriously, "Do you know what your husband is doing?" What? Chapter 402. Shi Cheng held a crown in front of Tang Guo as if he was presenting a treasure. She was surprised for a moment. She glanced at the crown that was studded with countless diamonds and gems and praised, "It's quite beautiful. Do you want to try it on, Your Majesty?" A doting smile appeared on Shi Cheng's cold face. He carefully put the crown on her head and praised, "It really suits Guo Guo." Tang Guo looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. "It looks good. No one is more suitable for it than you." Tang Guo looked straight at Shi Cheng for a long time and adjusted his collar. "Then what do you want?" "I just want your love," he said sincerely. He said with utmost sincerity. Only her was reflected in his eyes, as if she was the only one in his entire world. He held her hand tightly and couldn't help but wrap his arms around her waist. "I also want your kiss. Of course, I want your body more. You're not greedy at all. So cute." Tang Guo held his hand back and her eyes flashed like stars. She looked up with a half-smile. "Cheng, do you want to propose to me while you're at it?" Shi Cheng was stunned for a moment. Happiness came too quickly and he couldn't react. However, his body reacted quickly. He knelt down on one knee and took out the diamond ring that he had prepared long ago. With a sincere expression, he said, "My queen, will you marry me? Seeing how cute you are, I'll make it easier for me to marry you." She extended her slender hand in front of him. Shi Cheng's hand trembled, but he steadily put the diamond ring on her ring finger. With a satisfied expression, he pulled her into his arms and hugged her excitedly. He said softly, "I can't believe it." She agreed just like that. He looked into her eyes and found the love he wanted to see in them. His heart was filled with endless warmth. He was so touched that he wanted to give her the whole world. This time, he didn't ask for her permission and kissed her red lips. The taste was just as he had imagined. It was very good. The system was stunned when it saw the energy value increasing rapidly. Such a situation had never happened before. Every time, the energy value would only increase after a world had left. The host must be very happy. Yes, it must be. Pamper her, pamper her. Shi Cheng, do your best to pamper her. At this moment, the system found Shi Cheng very pleasing to the eye. There was no one more pleasing to the eye than him. The Sunset Empire appeared on the day of the Zombie Queen's coronation and marriage. The entire Sunset Empire was cheering. In this desperate apocalypse, the Sunset Empire was the only paradise, the only pure land. Only those who had experienced the apocalypse understood how precious peace and safety were. To be able to eat a full meal, wear warm clothes, and sleep soundly every day was a luxury. It was the Zombie Queen who had brought them such a pure land. She was someone they would respect forever. They would also bless the Zombie Queen and His Highness, Prince Shi Cheng, for a long time, and their relationship would last forever. But this news spread to all the major bases, and they were all in disbelief. At this time, who would still care about law? The sudden appearance of the Sunset Empire caught them off guard. Soon, they figured out something from the words. Could it be that the Sunset Empire was the Sunset Base? Chapter 403. Why is the person in power called the Zombie Queen? Yang Yi asked in confusion. The subordinate who received the news quickly said, "It said that the Zombie Queen is a zombie, but it's a very powerful zombie with consciousness." Yang Yi was shocked, but he quickly calmed down and glanced at Yang Yan. They had indeed seen a conscious zombie before and were very familiar with it. Yang Yan's hands were also trembling. Why was this different from the book? Was it because of her appearance that this butterfly effect was created? "Boss Yang, it's getting more and more dangerous outside. The people close to the Sunset Empire have all sided with them. The best way now is to integrate all the bases. We need to work together to expand the range of human survival." "That's right. From the looks of it, the Sunset Empire won't help us unless we submit to them. Let me think about it." Su Ao had already gone to inquire about the news. Su Ao was the conscious zombie. After the last time, he said that he would stay in the dark to protect Yang Yan. Now that he had advanced to level 6, his appearance was much cleaner, but his face still looked abnormal. But he was very powerful. Since Qin Jiaran and the other old members disappeared, there were not many powerful and trustworthy espers around him. Su Ao would never betray him because of Yang Yan. After the meeting, the two went back to wait for news. Not long after, Su Ao returned. "How is it, Brother Su?" Yang Yan was the most concerned. The current apocalypse made her panic. All of this was different from the books she had read. This was no longer a book, but a real world. For the first time, she felt the fear of the unknown. Su Ao's expression was very complicated. Only after digesting the information along the way did he not appear so surprised. The Zombie Queen is indeed a zombie. We think that most of the disappeared zombies were accepted by the Sunset Empire. The zombies there are conscious, don't bite, and can live peacefully with humans. They are food, the same as humans, and even what? Yang Yan couldn't believe it. Was it possible for zombies and humans to live peacefully? But she saw Su Ao in front of her. It was possible. Su Ao continued, 80% of them are zombies, and only 20% are humans. It's like a paradise. There's no danger and it's very peaceful. I saw lickers trying to break in before, but they were destroyed in a few steps. How is this possible? Since they can eliminate the lickers, why don't they eliminate all the lickers? Yang Yan asked subconsciously. Isn't this meaningful to all humans? For the first time, Su Ao couldn't help refuting Yang Nyan's words. Nyan Nyan, that's an empire ruled by zombies. It should have been called the Zombie Empire. The reason why it changed its name to Sunset Empire is because the Zombie Queen's husband, who is now Prince Shecheng, was the original boss of Sunset Base. Do you think that the zombies will help humans deal with all the lickers? Humans see zombies as their enemies. Why would they help humans? What Su Ao didn't say was that he was envious. He envied the zombies in the Sunset Empire. They lived a happier life than the humans here. The Zombie Queen was powerful. She could build an empire and protect all zombies from being exterminated. She could also make zombies and humans live in peace. Compared to him, who was only willing to protect the woman he had a crush on, she was really noble. He heard the Zombie Queen say, "We are all humans. Why can't we survive on this planet? This is also our right." Chapter 404. Ever since he went to the Sunset Empire to gather information, Su Ao had been a little distracted. With Yang Nyan here, he could only secretly interact with the two of them. After so many years of guarding, their feelings for each other had almost faded. Yang Nyan was no longer the innocent little girl he used to like. She already had Yang Yi and didn't need him for a long time, but he had always been obsessed. Now that he suddenly found a place that belonged to his race, the more he thought about it, the more he wanted to go. He always felt that he should go there, that he should belong there. If he didn't go, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Su Ao thought about it for a long time. When he saw Yang Nyan and Yang Yi being lovey-dovey, she only called him Brother Su when she had something to do. When he occasionally got close to her, he didn't miss the disdain in Yang Nyan's eyes. Su Ao suddenly came to a realization. What was the point of guarding someone who only used him, didn't like him, and even somewhat disliked him? He left a note for Yang Nyan. There were only 3 words, "I'm leaving." Su Ao came to the Sunset Empire alone. The people of the Sunset Empire knew that he was a zombie and came to seek shelter. After reaching level 6, they were especially welcoming. They asked for his opinion and showed him the laws of the Sunset Empire. If he didn't have any objections, he could receive a legal citizen's identity card. The moment Su Ao signed his name, he felt satisfied and a relieved smile appeared on his face. "Master Su Ao, your strength has reached level 6. There aren't many zombies of this level. We need to take you to see Her Majesty and let her personally arrange a position for you." Su Ao nodded and was warmly invited in by a group of humans. Unlike the people outside, the people here looked at him with excitement in their eyes, as if he was a delicious cake. This was really strange. Even ordinary children would tell the people around them, "Wow, another powerful zombie uncle is here. I heard that he's at level 6. He's really powerful." Su Ao's lips curled up. Since becoming a zombie, this was the first time he was watched in such an atmosphere. It was surprisingly wonderful, and a special kind of happiness surged in his heart. Zombie uncle and auntie are really powerful. Many lickers came to cause trouble before, but they were all killed by them. Yeah, last time I had a companion who was almost taken away by a mutant eagle. It was a powerful zombie brother who found him and chased after him to save him. Worship, the people here actually worship zombies. Su Ao's heart was surging. From today onwards, he was going to join the large group here and do the same thing as all the other members. Would these children also worship him like that? "Your Majesty, Your Highness, a level 6 zombie is here." Wu Chu was wearing a tuxedo. He walked in elegantly with a pious expression. "Your Majesty, do you want to see me now?" After Tangguo swallowed the last mouthful of food, Shecheng carefully wiped the corner of her mouth. Wu Chu was used to this and was very satisfied with Shecheng's behavior. That was how a prince should treat their respected emperor. Let him in. She welcomed level 6 zombies very much, especially those who evolved on their own. Their talents were top-notch. When Su Ao saw the zombie queen, he froze on the spot. Tangguo was also slightly startled. She then smiled and said, "So it's you." Su Ao came back to his senses. He finally understood that she must have discovered him that day, right? Then, just how powerful was she? Chapter 405. Greetings, Your Majesty. Su Ao reacted quickly. He bowed and said, "My name is Su Ao." Tangwa nodded. "I know you. You used to be by Yang Nyan's side." "Yes," Su Ao said, "but that's all in the past. Now I'm a citizen of the Sunset Empire and a subject of Her Majesty. Everything in the past has nothing to do with me." "You're quite sensible. You have good taste. You won't be disappointed by choosing this place." Su Ao smiled faintly. Of course, he wouldn't be disappointed. This was where he belonged, even though this zombie queen was outside of his expectations. Although he had many doubts in his heart, it was no longer important. Was a woman who could build the Sunset Empire simple? Was she the kind of woman who deliberately smeared others, framed others, and fought with others for men? He had stayed with Yang Nyan for a long time and almost understood the twists and turns. And was this queen really so infatuated with Yang Yi? Perhaps at first, but what about later? She might have her own plans. Tangwa looked at Su Ao's secretly speculating eyes and found it funny. They were all smart and wanted to figure out her thoughts. First, there was Qin Jiaren, and now there was Su Ao. Actually, she didn't mind at all. All right, she had purposely shown it to them. Since you're already a level 6 zombie, go and protect the team. Occasionally go out on missions, and usually protect the safety of the Sunset Empire. Su Ao's eyes lit up and he quickly replied, "Okay. Wu Chu, go and arrange a place for him. Stay well. By the way, it's very important before you evolve to level 7. Remember to inform me." Seeing that Su Ao didn't understand, Tangwa continued, "A level 7 zombie's appearance will return to normal. For example, the one next to you is now a level 8 zombie." Su Ao's eyes were shocked. Wu Chu was a level 8 zombie. He thought he was a human before, but then he remembered that Tangwa said he could return to normal at level 7. He was a little excited. The mutated animals, plants, and zombies on the planet can be eaten. After eating, you can absorb energy and advance as soon as possible. If you don't have time, eat more. Su Ao was even more surprised. Could this be? The mutated animals and plants that many people were afraid of were actually food for zombies? This was too unbelievable. As for the lickers and those disgusting things that came out from the bottom, we have to kill them. You don't have to care about those outside. Kill all those who barge in. Su Ao memorized all of this and thought to himself, Her Majesty really holds grudges. He could guess that Yang Yi was probably going to integrate the remaining bases and humans. She must have known that as well. Currently, the Sunset Empire was peaceful and stable, while the people outside were still suffering. He could already imagine how painful Yang Yi's future days would be. He didn't know why, but he actually felt some joy in his heart. Yes, it was pleasure. Su Ao's departure made Yang Nyan unhappy for a while, but only for a while. Soon, she and Yang Yi were busy organizing all the bases. Through Yang Yi's various methods, all the bases were finally merged into one, and they were called the Sunshine Base. Yang Nyan heaved a sigh of relief. The Sunshine Base was finally in control. It was similar to what she had seen in the novel. The Sunshine Base worked together to build a city and named it Sunshine City. Yang Yi became the City Lord of Sunshine City and was called City Lord Yang by the people. However, reality was still unfriendly to human survival. Chapter 406. Yang Yi got people to use Sunshine City as a circle and gradually expand outwards. Before eliminating the mutated animals and plants, as well as abnormal apocalyptic creatures like the lickers, they had to live in sturdy houses. The research on the drug to eliminate these creatures didn't go smoothly. Yang Nyan even took out the spiritual spring produced by the jade pendant every day for research, but there were still no results. Once, they went out and encountered a licker. Yang Nyan subconsciously used the spiritual spring to water it. Who knew that the licker wasn't hurt and instead chased after Yang Nyan even more excitedly. In order to save Yang Nyan, everyone except Yang Yi and Yang Nyan sacrificed themselves. Seeing her companions being swallowed, Yang Nyan became more and more panicked about surviving in the apocalypse. This was different from what was said in the book, completely different. Sunshine City had already been built. Shouldn't they live peacefully and slowly restore the vitality of Earth? Yang Nian was terrified and uneasy. She even had nightmares from time to time at night. Countless times, she wondered if it was because she had snatched Tangua's jade pendant that many things had developed in different directions. She just wanted to change her fate and didn't kill Tangua. Moreover, she was more benevolent than Tangua. She shared the spiritual spring with everyone and unconditionally supported the research of the drug. She didn't use it much herself. Tangua in the book wasn't so kind. She only contributed a little to the base to research the drug every day and hid it the rest of the time. Every day, Sunshine City would be attacked by all sorts of mutated beasts and lickers. The number of deaths was uncountable. Many mutants were used to the panic from the beginning. Only ordinary people were so scared that they didn't even dare to go out. This phenomenon gradually caused Sunshine City to fall into trouble. Not only here, but all places in the world fell into such a disaster. Compared to the Sunset Empire, it could be said to be peaceful. Every person and every zombie had a warm and happy smile on their face. As long as it was the land of the Sunset Empire, there were no mutated plants to cause trouble. 10 years. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Through the efforts and resistance of people all over the world, the mutated creatures were driven to desolate places. Many lickers were also eliminated, and the rest fled to uninhabited areas. The forces all over the world were also wiped out, but no matter where it was already full of devastation. The apocalyptic crisis brought irreparable pain to the entire planet. Animals and plants were greatly reduced, especially plants. If one was not careful, they could become mutated plants. For the safety of humans, they had no choice but to cut down a large number of unknown plants. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he had made a very wrong decision. After the human survival circle was safe, it was too late for them to restore life to the land. Many lands were no longer suitable for planting. All kinds of green vegetables and fruits already existed only in their memories. They might not have the chance to taste them in their lifetime. The situation in Sunshine City was slightly better. With the support of the spirit spring in Yang Nian's jade pendant, many vegetable and fruit seeds were preserved, as well as a small amount of land that could still be used. The Sunshine Base changed a few years ago. It was no longer called the Sunshine Base, but the Sunshine Empire. Yang Yi was the ruler of the Sunshine Empire. Yang Nian was still panicking because she found that the spiritual spring in the jade pendant was getting less and less. Until one day, when she took the spirit spring water in front of Yang Yi, she found that the land inside the jade pendant had turned into a desert. The vegetables and fruits that were planted there had also dried up and disappeared. The jade pendant also changed under Yang Yi's gaze. Looking at the familiar jade pendant interface, Yang Yi's expression changed drastically. Chapter 407. It should be about time, right? Tangua wore a gorgeous dress and leaned lazily in Shecheng's arms. The two sat on the throne together, and the people below were already used to it. Since the first day of her reign, their queen had been sitting on the throne with the prince. Even at the most serious time, she still leaned on his shoulder as if she had no bones. What was the scariest thing for the people of the Sunset Empire? Naturally, it was their queen and prince showing off their love all the time, completely ignoring their fragile hearts that had been hurt by the apocalypse. For example, Her Majesty the Queen said something out of the blue after they finished reporting the matter. It should be about time. They looked at each other, not quite understanding what the Queen meant. She couldn't help but turn to look at the man who had a cold face but only had a doting smile on his face. Your Highness, could you please explain to me what Her Majesty the Queen meant? Neither the people of the Sunset Empire nor the zombies knew how powerful the Queen was. They only knew that someone wanted to rebel, and that person was already a level 8 mutant. However, as soon as he rushed up, he was slapped into the floor by the Queen. That hole was very deep. The prince didn't ask anyone to fill that hole. Instead, he named it Her Majesty's Hole. Nowadays, every time the palace opened a room to the public, countless people would pay a high entrance fee to visit Her Majesty's Hole. How's the situation outside recently? Tangua asked. She had set up such a chess game, and it had been more than 10 years. It should be realized now. She didn't know what was waiting for Yang Nian, and what Yang Yi would do. She was looking forward to it. When she went to see Yang Nian for the last time, she even beat her up. She didn't really want to take the jade pendant, but just did something to it. It was originally the original owner's, so it didn't make sense for Yang Nian to keep using it and getting benefits. She directly announced the truth, so Yang Yi wouldn't feel what it was like to be deceived, and he wouldn't feel the heartache. Yang Yi must have a deep impression of the jade pendant when he saw it become something he used to be familiar with. What made Yang Yi even more regretful was that, in his mind, the person who had abandoned him was already dead, and he had personally sent him away. Thinking of that scene, he probably hated that he couldn't cut his own heart piece by piece. Tang Guo narrowed her eyes and smiled. Not only that, she also left a lot of souvenirs for Yang Yi in the small compartment in the villa. These souvenirs were enough for him to reminisce for a while. The people below only felt that it was chilly. There was no wind blowing in, so how could it be chilly? Besides, wasn't it summer? Why was it that they couldn't help but shiver? They couldn't help but raise their heads to see their queen's sly smile and their prince's affectionate gaze. Everyone cursed in their hearts at the same time. What the fuck? System, host, Ziyun's sage has already developed the item you requested. What is it? Tang Guo was a little confused. She had asked her friends in the group to help her with many things over the years. She had indeed forgotten about it. The system sighed. It was angry. The host was living too happily. A pipe dream. Chapter 408. Tang Guo smiled. Yes, a golden millet dream. I specially prepared a final gift for Yang Yi. This is also a big surprise. A golden millet dream was a dream of the past and present life. It would definitely let Yang Yi experience how the original owner of the body ended up in that tragic world. The original owner of the body was so miserable. Why could Yang Yi still be in charge so easily? He had to suffer for the rest of his life. Every day he stayed in his territory was a day of pain, but he had no choice but to continue. Just as Tang Guo thought, when Yang Yi saw the jade pendant change into a familiar appearance with his own eyes, he subconsciously grabbed the jade pendant in his hand. The word Tang was engraved on the corner of the jade pendant. He and Tang Guo were fiancés, so he had naturally seen this jade pendant around her neck. He had asked Tang Guo about this jade pendant. She had said that it was her family's jade pendant and was very important. She was the only girl in the family's generation, so her father had given this jade pendant to her. When the apocalypse came, there was no news of father and mother Tang. Later, he asked around and found that they were long dead. He still clearly remembered that Tang Guo had said that even if she was about to starve to death, she couldn't hand this jade pendant over to exchange for anything. This was what Father Tang had instructed. Yang Yi thought of everything that had happened yesterday and squeezed the jade pendant that had returned to its original state. There was no need to ask anything. Everything was clear. His eyes were red and he couldn't help but cry. Drop by drop, they fell on the jade pendant. He quickly wiped them clean with his sleeve. A sense of regret and anger surged in his heart. At this moment, he really wanted to tear himself apart. The jade pendant belonged to Tang Guo, but it had been possessed by Yang Nian for more than 10 years. There was no need to find out the truth. Yang Nian was lying. He carefully put the jade pendant into his pocket. Yang Nian tried to take it back with her mind, but suddenly found that she couldn't move it. It was as if the connection between her and the jade pendant had been broken. Yang Yi looked at her abruptly, causing her to tremble in fright. Her face was pale as she hurriedly said, "Ah Yi, listen to me. It's not what you think. I picked up this jade pendant. I really picked it up. When I picked it up, it was already like this." Really? Yang Yi was in charge of the Sunshine Empire and had struggled in the apocalypse for so many years. He could tell whether Yang Nian was telling the truth or not. The reason why he was deceived was because he was abandoned by the person he loved. At that time, he was just a young man who had just graduated from university and had just made a name for himself in the apocalypse. His heart was filled with vengeance and hatred. No matter what Tang was said at that time, he would not believe her. Instead, he would think that she was a sweet talker, an actress, and a liar. He didn't believe that his timid fiancée would rush out of the villa and face those disgusting and terrifying zombies in order to get the medicine for him. Yang Nyan's timely appearance made him, who had been abandoned, feel a sense of warmth. If it wasn't for the jade pendant being restored to its original appearance today, he wouldn't have thought too deeply about it even if there were various suspicious points in his mind. For more than 10 years, Yang Nyan had been gentle and generous. She was his good wife. And in the end, to hell with the virtuous wife, this woman was clearly the one with the heart of a snake and scorpion. Every time he recalled the past, his heart ached. Tell me the truth. Yang Yi gritted his teeth. What she said is the truth, right? Yang Nyan's face was pale and she kept retreating. How could this be? How could the jade pendant be restored to its original appearance? Chapter 409. Yang Nyan couldn't explain it clearly. Yang Yi saw how flustered she was. He suddenly laughed out loud. How ridiculous. He had actually been deceived by this woman for more than 10 years. He spread his hands. He had personally injected Tang Guo with a drug that made her special ability disappear temporarily. He had personally pushed her to the sunset base and let her suffer the pain of being studied. He finally understood why she didn't run away after recovering her special ability. She was probably desperate and didn't want to run. She had given up and no longer had any thoughts of living. He recalled how she had been cowardly and helpless when she first came to the 7th base, but still mustered up the courage to look for her fiancé. He recalled how she was clearly a rich young lady, but in order to explain to him, she had done something she didn't know how to do. She had even cooked a pot of delicious food. He recalled how he had personally pushed her into the zombie crowd for Yang Nyan. When she turned back to look at him, his heart ached and he regretted it. After that, she would never pester him again, nor would she explain anything to him. Before leaving, she had even beaten him and Yang Nyan up. At that time, she had smiled as if she already knew something. When she was injected with the drug, not only did she not curse, she also did not resist. Instead, with a smile, she dragged her weak body and said to those people, "Take me out. If you hand me over, your base will be safe." Xiao Guo, Yang Yi opened his mouth and shouted silently. No matter how regretful he was, she was gone. She would never come back to his side. He wiped his tears and coldly glanced at Yang Nyan, who was trembling in the corner. It wasn't that he didn't know Yang Nyan was suspicious. In the past, he didn't know the truth and could tolerate it. No matter how suspicious she was, he would tolerate it. But now, it was as if a lunatic had entered his heart. If he hadn't deliberately suppressed it, he was afraid he would have punched Yang Nyan. Yang Nyan didn't dare to do anything. The jade pendant was useless. The strength she had cultivated couldn't compare to Yang Yi at all. In order to study medicine, she had contributed most of the spiritual spring and didn't have time to cultivate. She thought that since Yang Yi was around, she could protect herself with her strength. There was no need to work so hard. Yang Yi picked Yang Nyan up and crippled her hands and feet. Ignoring the woman's cries of pain, he had a crazy smile on his face. Xiao Guo was already dead, so this woman would not have an easy time. He would not let her die easily. After crippling Yang Nyan, he ordered someone to interrogate her secretly. How could Yang Nyan's willpower hold on? She explained her background completely. "I just didn't want to end up in such a miserable state. I only took her jade pendant and tricked her into going out to get the medicine. I just didn't want her to be with you." Yang Nyan was in a sorry state. "Really, I don't mean anything else. Didn't I never do anything to her? Heal the tendons in her hands and feet and inject her with a drug that will make her lose her ability. After making sure that she has no strength left, throw her out." Yang Yi ordered indifferently. He did not expect this result at all. He was actually a character from the book. Yang Nyan had snatched Xiao Guo's jade pendant because her character would have a tragic ending in the future. He wanted to laugh. Of all the methods, why did she have to use this method? Originally, he and Xiao Guo should have gone through the apocalypse together, but because of Yang Nyan, Xiao Guo was gone. His xiaoguo was gone. Chapter 410. Dear host, Yang Yi has already destroyed Yang Nian's cultivation and driven her out of the Sunshine Empire, leaving her to fend for herself outside. Tangguo opened her eyes. So fast. Yes, Yang Yi must be feeling terrible now. He returned to the villa and went to the cubicle where you used to live and found the things you left behind. Tangguo smiled. I knew he would look for it. According to human nature, if he suddenly found out the truth, he would definitely go. He can't wait to go to all the places I've been and stayed. The things she left behind were none other than the bag of medicine she had taken from the pharmacy. There were more than 30 kinds of medicine, but one of the functions of each medicine was to reduce fever. When Yang Yi saw these medicines, he would definitely happily recall the incident in his villa when he had a fever. Dear host, Yang Yi was eating those expired medicines. He seemed to be quite happy eating them. He was crying and laughing while eating. He even said that the medicine dear host brought back was really delicious. The system silently wiped its sweat. This Yang Yi's taste was really heavy. He even dared to eat medicine that had been expired for more than 10 years. It had already melted and become moldy. Respect him for being a man. What's wrong with eating expired medicine? Espers have a good physique and won't die. Tangguo was in a very good mood. She lifted her long skirt and walked out. How's Yang Nian's situation now? Not very good. She was a woman without power and couldn't survive in such a world. She was especially afraid of death. In order to survive, she found an old man to follow her. That man was a hunter in the apocalypse and had a bad temper. He either hit or scolded her. Oh, being beautiful is still useful. She still has to walk the same path as the original owner. Tangguo smiled. In fact, she's a bit stupid. What do you think? Why did dear host say that? If dear host hadn't come, wouldn't Yang Nian have succeeded? Then he thought of the so-called female lead halo. With this halo, no matter how stupid a person was, it was easy to succeed in anything. All kinds of loopholes, no matter how smart a person was, would subconsciously ignore them. If she just wants to live and change the original ending, she can just hug my thigh. As long as she doesn't have any bad thoughts, she can still survive in the apocalypse. She thought that the original owner had no sympathy and was cold. In fact, this is the end of the world, where there are no laws and restrictions. It is possible that a good heart will bring about irreversible consequences. Tangguo paused for a moment. She thinks that in a certain part of the book, the original owner did not save the old, young, women and children. In fact, it was the end of the world that created such a character. In the beginning, when the original owner and Yang Yi met people who were in trouble, they tried their best to save them. Later, because they saved a group of people, they put her in danger, and she knew the secret of the jade pendant. You said that after this lesson, would the original owner, who knew not to show sympathy, still dare to save people? Yang Nian thinks that the original owner is selfish for not taking out the jade pendant spirit spring for research and saving the world. In fact, the original owner already knew that there was a limit to the spirit spring. Otherwise, why would there be only a few drops a day? She didn't dare to use too much for cultivation so that she could take it out when she needed it in the future. Yang Nian's thinking is too naive. She only thought that if she contributed the spirit spring, those researchers would definitely develop a medicine. In fact, those people knew that there was a lot of spirit spring, so they weren't so careful in their research. They thought that since the spirit spring was inexhaustible, would they still cherish it? They weren't too eager to research results. Instead, they used the spirit spring to do a lot of meaningless experiments. Chapter 411. The original owner was defeated because she liked Yang Yi too much and cared too much about relationships. If she was clear-headed, she could have completely abandoned the past and taken charge of a region to compete with Yang Yi. No matter what the truth is, only those who are alive have a chance to surface. Only those who are alive can use time to tell the world the truth. If they die, they die. With death, all the secrets are likely to dissipate. Isn't that giving the villain an eternal chance? Tangguo stood on the city wall and stared at the orderly army below. A natural zombie king with such good conditions. Most likely, the heavens gave her a golden finger because her jade pendant was taken away by Yang Nian. She didn't seize this opportunity. It's not worth it to like someone who doesn't believe in her and doesn't like her. Unconsciously, Tangua murmured this sentence. Guogua. No matter what, I will always believe in you and stand by your side. I will always like you. Shecheng walked over and hugged her. Don't leave me. Tangua turned around. Who said I'm leaving you? Shecheng stroked her beautiful face. It doesn't feel real enough. He got together with her so easily. They even got married and took charge of the entire Sunset Empire together. Ah Cheng, if you have time to imagine, why don't you exchange more gems for me? Tangua's eyes lit up. There is a shortage of vegetables and fruits all over the world. We don't lack these at all. Recently, I especially like beautiful gems. Ah Cheng, get someone to send a message that gems can be exchanged for vegetables and fruits in the Sunset Empire. System, this host is hopeless. She liked beautiful dresses before, and now she likes gems. I don't know if she will squander the entire Sunset Empire. Okay, I'll do it right away. Shecheng kissed her lips and hugged her again. He couldn't bear to let go. I'll be back soon. The next day, the news spread all over the world. Almost all the countries that could receive the news knew that the mysterious Sunset Empire was willing to sell vegetables and fruits as long as they could produce something satisfactory. They thought it would be a lot of gold. After all, gold was the main currency at this time. There were many zombies in the Sunset Empire. Things like crystal cores had long disappeared with the appearance of the Sunset Empire. They did not know how powerful the Sunset Empire was, but they knew that offending the Sunset Empire was definitely not a good thing. What they did not expect was that the Sunset Empire's conditions were all kinds of gems and beautiful jewelry. In short, they were very interested in jewelry. Later, they found out that their zombie queen had recently taken a liking to gemstones, so they planned to sell vegetables and fruits. Similarly, the Sunshine Empire also received the news. Since Yang Nian disappeared, many people in the Sunshine Empire fell into a panic for a while, but they calmed down under Yang Yi's means. However, the gradual decrease in fruits and vegetables still worried them. Now that they could buy vegetables and fruits, they were relieved. Yang Yi also planned to use jewelry to trade. These things were meaningless to them. On this day, the Sunset Empire felt as if all the countries had come to pay their respects. The moment the people from the various countries walked into the Sunset Empire, they were all stunned. There were all kinds of sturdy and beautiful castles, rows of green paths, orderly traffic, beautiful streets, and well-dressed and clean passers-by. It was as if this was not the end of the world, but a prosperous ancient era. Chapter 412. The people here all had sunny smiles, and some had pale faces. It was obvious that they were zombies, but they were talking like normal people. They couldn't help but look up. It was as if the sky of the Sunset Empire was blue, not grey like outside. The leaders of the various countries came. They had wanted to come to the Sunset Empire for a long time, but after the world stabilized, the Sunset Empire stopped accepting refugees. It wasn't that they didn't want to sneak in, but the Sunset Empire's defenses were too good. The entire Sunset Empire wasn't big, and the territory that belonged to the Sunset Empire was built with strong walls. Looking at the thick walls, all the countries were dumbfounded. They didn't understand how it was done. Now that they saw these strangely built and beautiful castles, they understood that the Sunset Empire must have mastered a special construction method. Their hearts were burning, but they were immediately extinguished by the power of the Sunset Empire. Yang Yi followed everyone and was invited into the Sunset Palace. When they passed by a deep pit, the guide stopped for a moment and pointed to a sign beside the human-shaped pit. He smiled and introduced, this was once a traitor who tried to attack the queen, but was slapped away by the queen. He fell and formed this pit. The prince thought it was interesting, so he left the queen's pit. Everyone has 1 minute to look around. The mouths of the people from the various countries twitched. They were all ability users, but they still took 2 steps forward to take a look. They saw the bottomless human-shaped pit, and they couldn't tell how deep it was with their eyes. How powerful was the queen? Those who originally had some petty thoughts in their hearts all put them away one after another. Yang Yi had already thought about how much he wanted to exchange for what he had. They all waited in the hall, staring at the throne above. When the queen and the prince appeared hand in hand, Yang Yi's expression froze. He looked at the two in disbelief. The two sat together on the throne, very close to each other. The people of the Sunset Empire heaved a sigh of relief. The queen and the prince were very polite and didn't show off their affection. They even knew to keep a distance in front of outsiders. Yang Yi's mind was in a mess. He stared at the familiar face. He wanted to rush up and ask if she was Xiao Guo. But seeing the two of them being so intimate, and considering his current identity and the other's identity, he restrained himself. Xiao Guo, was she Xiao Guo? No, how could Xiao Guo be the zombie queen? How could she be the zombie queen? She was the founder of the Sunset Empire. Are you all here to trade for vegetables and fruits? Tang Guo said softly. The familiar voice rang in Yang Yi's ears. He clenched his fists. This voice was exactly the same. However, this woman had a noble aura, and the elegance between her brows was different from Xiao Guo's. It was as if she was born to be a queen and should sit on the beautiful diamond-studded throne, looking down on all living beings. People from various countries spoke one after another, expressing their willingness to exchange gems for vegetables and fruits. They also said that they wanted to cooperate with the Sunset Empire for a long time. Of course, what they wanted more was seeds and ways to grow vegetables and fruits. Seeds. I can sell them to you. I can tell you the planting method now. Find a piece of soil, dig a hole, throw in the seeds, bury the soil, water it, and take care of it regularly. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Her Majesty the Queen was teasing them. Chapter 413. You don't believe me? Tang Guo supported her chin with one hand. This is how the vegetables in the Sunset Empire are grown. Do you want to come with me to observe? Everyone was moved. Tang Guo satisfied their request and brought them to the land where the vegetables were grown. When they saw the method of growing the vegetables with their own eyes, their expressions were somewhat indescribable. They completely did not expect that the soil of the Sunset Empire was the same as before the apocalypse. It was not polluted, and the survival rate of the seeds was too high. Next, you can take out your gems to exchange for vegetables and fruits with me. This time, Tang Guo couldn't help but lean on Shi Cheng's shoulder and whisper, Ah Cheng, I'll leave the business with them to you. Gems don't mean anything to them. Our vegetables and fruits are the most precious. I won't let Her Majesty suffer a loss. The two of them showed off their affection without any explanation, and the people from various countries had the urge to turn around and leave. During the trade, they realized that the people of the Sunset Empire were all dogs. They asked for a lot of gems in exchange for some vegetables and fruits. However, they had no choice but to trade. Fortunately, Her Majesty was willing to make another trade with them, which was to sell them soil. The soil that was completely unpolluted by the apocalypse was not sold by carts, but by catties. How much was a catty of gold? After hearing the price, countless people were speechless. Was this the legendary land worth an inch of gold? But what could they do? Buy. Even if it was more expensive than gold, they had to buy it. Not only did they have to buy it, but they also had to buy it by carts. At least with such clean soil, they could do a lot of experiments. Perhaps they could find a way to restore the polluted soil. Yang Yi was absent-minded the whole time. When everyone was preparing to leave, he chose to meet with Her Majesty alone. Tang Guo was not surprised, so she agreed to his request. Yang Yi was excited as he stepped into the inner hall. When he saw the two of them snuggling together, his eyes were a little sore. Are you Xiao Guo? He finally could not help but ask this question. He had been holding back these days, not daring to think that this high and mighty woman in front of him was the one he had once given up. When he thought of the past, he felt sad, as if he was being cut into pieces. Tang Guo smiled and did not deny it. Long time no see. Yang Yi's heart sank. He couldn't help but take 2 steps back. His eyes flashed with pain as he said with difficulty, I'm sorry. I already know. He looked up and stared at her. Xiaogua, I'm sorry. I know the truth. I've already chased Yang Nian away. I don't want to kill her because I don't want her to die so easily. I also know her background. Is it important? Was it important? Yang Yi rubbed his face. What's done can't be changed by an apology, Tangua said casually. Is there anything else? Xiaogua, He looked at Shi Cheng and thought of her current status. His eyes dimmed. What compensation do you want? As long as I can do it, I'll definitely do it, even if you want my life. You want the Sunshine Empire. He was willing to offer it up with both hands. Tangua raised her eyebrows. I'm already in charge of a country. What compensation do I need? You're dreaming. Seeing that the Sunset Empire is developing well, you want to give me a mess like the Sunshine Empire? I won't fall for it. As for your life, I can't be bothered to take it. If I satisfy you, you'll probably feel comforted and less guilty. Chapter 4:14. I'm very good. I have subjects who love me, lovers who only believe in me, and trustworthy companions, Tangua said with a smile. I can wear countless beautiful dresses, wear countless beautiful jewelry, and eat whatever I want. My life is very comfortable. My Sunset Empire is a pure land. Countless people are envious but can't get it. As for your compensation, I won't accept it. I won't accept your apology either. You can feel sad in your corner. If you're just here to apologize and compensate me, you can leave now. Yang Yi was still in a daze. The eyes that used to love him were no longer him. They were filled with the man called Shi Cheng. Tangua saw that he was still standing there and couldn't help but take out her communicator. Captain Su, come and ask Yang Junju to leave. He's standing in front of me and he's in my way. After a while, Su Ao walked in and said to Yang Yi, Yang Junju, please. Yang Yi was stunned when he saw Su Ao. In the end, he smiled bitterly and followed Su Ao out. After leaving the palace, Yang Yi met Qin Jiaran and Shao Qing on the street. They looked at each other and Yang Yi said, I want to ask you something. It won't be long, just a while. Shao Qing and the others nodded and led him to a private room in a tea house. After half an hour, they came out. Yang Yi left alone with a pale face. Qin Jiaran looked at his back and laughed. Her Majesty is indeed a ruthless person. Yes. Shao Qing wiped his sweat. Back then, I asked Her Majesty to mop the floor. Later, she didn't wring the mop dry and the whole floor was wet. At that time, I thought she really didn't know how to do it. Later, I realized that Her Majesty is very vengeful. Let's go. We still have things to do. Her Majesty has come up with new tricks recently. Let's go take a look first. Don't worry about Yang Yi. He won't have a good life in the future. Even if she didn't deliberately target him, Yang Yi would live in pain for the rest of his life. Yang Yi had only himself to blame for all of this. His Majesty was such a good person and had once treated him wholeheartedly. He had been blinded by filth and had personally pushed away the person who loved him the most. If this was not courting death, then what was? Yang Yi left the territory of the Sunset Empire and stood at the border for a very long time. His gaze was reluctant to leave the castles that he could see from afar. There was a noble woman living in the castle. She was the queen of the Sunset Empire. She led the entire Sunset Empire, had a husband who loved her dearly, and a group of subjects who loved her. She was noble, beautiful, intelligent, and powerful. She once really liked a person called Yang Yi, but it was this person who personally abandoned her. Later on, she forgot her feelings for Yang Yi and fell in love with another man. This man had always cherished her. The man named Yang Yi regretted it very much. He recalled the conversation he had with his old friends in the tea house. His face was pale, his eyes were sore, and his legs were weak. When he had a high fever, Xiaogua handed him over to Yang Nian and left the villa alone with a kitchen knife. A rich young lady who had never cut meat actually used a kitchen knife to kill countless zombies. She rushed into the pharmacy covered in blood and brain matter and found a large bag of fever medicine for him. When she was about to leave the pharmacy, she was attacked by zombies and turned into a zombie. Perhaps she was luckier than other zombies and became a natural zombie king. But she still wanted to come back to find him. Hiding her identity as a zombie, she took the bag of fever medicine and embarked on a journey to find her fiancé. She finally found him, but things didn't go as planned. Chapter 4:15. Monarch, let's go. Yang Yi had been standing at the border for 3 days. With the physical strength of a paranormal, standing for a few days wouldn't affect him much. But his confidant had never seen him in such a sorry state. Yang Yi came back to his senses and looked at the castles with some nostalgia. His voice was hoarse. Let's go. He wanted to die and be done with it. As long as he lived, he would be in pain. But he had the whole Sunshine Empire behind him. If he died, the Sunshine Empire would fall into chaos, and the hard-won peace would collapse in an instant. Before leaving, Qin Jiaran said to him, "The Queen wants you to live. She wants you to live in pain for the rest of your life." He asked, "Did she really say that?" "Of course. If Her Majesty didn't say that, why would she let me tell you this?" Qin Jiaran's cold face showed a hint of a smile. "You don't know Her Majesty at all. She's very vengeful." Yang Yi was stunned. Recalling all the things in the past, he realized that Tang Guo was indeed very vengeful. She would take revenge on anyone who didn't treat her well. Being alive was indeed the biggest revenge against him. She didn't take revenge on him directly, but she wanted him to live and let him suffer the pain of losing his lover day by day. Let's go. He didn't know how long a paranormal's life was. But he only knew that in the following days, every day he lived was a day of pain. Once he stopped, his heart felt like it was being torn apart piece by piece. Later, there was a very strange rumor in the Sunshine Empire. The monarch of the Sunshine Empire had a strange habit of taking fever medicine. He didn't take it occasionally, but every meal every day. Skipping a meal was like skipping a meal for an ordinary person. It was extremely painful. No matter where he went, he would take a bottle of fever medicine with him. When it was time to eat, he would take the medicine first and then eat. Many people had seen that scene and thought that Yang Yi was sick. Who would take medicine for no reason, especially fever medicine? Paranormals didn't have a fever or a cold. At most, they would be injured in battle. They had never seen anyone take medicine with a smile and satisfaction on his face, as if he was tasting the most delicious food in the world. The news that Emperor Yang of the Sunshine Empire was sick had spread across the entire planet. Of course, other than this, he was still very conscientious when it came to ruling the Sunshine Empire. Those who were familiar with him knew that he was extremely busy and had no free time at all. He couldn't sleep well at night and had to rely on large amounts of medicine to control his sleep. If it was an ordinary paranormal, he would have had a mental breakdown. Unfortunately, Yang Yi was not around. A pharmacist had examined him, and the result was that his body was very healthy. He could easily live for a few hundred years. Knowing this result, Yang Yi was not happy. He could not eat or sleep well every day. Whenever he closed his eyes, he would be reminded of the past. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, but his body was still healthy. Sure enough, this was a punishment from the heavens. Did they want him to live in pain? The male lead's halo is indeed very powerful. Even this can make him healthy. Tang Guo was convinced. That's good too. The longer he lives, the more pain he'll suffer. Dear host, Yang Nian is coming to the Sunset Empire. As for the people that Tang Guo paid attention to, the system paid close attention to them and monitored them all the time. Oh, I almost forgot about her. The female lead's halo is quite big. She's already like this, but she can still live well. Dear host, she's not living well. Have you misunderstood something? Yang Nian's current life was worse than Yang Nian's. She didn't know what medicine Yang Yi had injected into her, but she couldn't die even if she wanted to. She was also very attractive to men. Chapter 4:16. Ever since she was chased out by Yang Yi, Yang Nian began to wander in the chaotic world. First, she was snatched back by a doomsday hunter. Later, the hunter had a conflict with someone and sent her away because he couldn't win. Just like that, She was tossed around between all kinds of men. At the beginning, she was unyielding, but now she was resigned to her fate. She didn't want to live a life worse than death, but she didn't even have the courage to commit suicide. Gradually, she learned to smile at all kinds of men and use her body to please them. She seemed to have forgotten who she was and would smile at anyone who treated her a little better. This time, she was with a businessman. Over the years, all the countries got along well with the Sunset Empire. They found that the Sunset Empire didn't intend to expand its territory, so they didn't have any ideas about it. Many countries had sent spies in, but they were all captured before they could even take a step inside and were publicly sent back to their home countries. At that time, they understood that the Sunset Empire couldn't be offended and could only be friendly. According to the businessman, the Sunset Empire was the only pure land after the apocalypse. It was a place where all the humans on the planet wanted to live. Every inch of land was really expensive. Even now, there were still countries that spent a lot of gold to buy the land from the Sunset Empire. Yes, it was the kind of land that was bought by truckloads. Yang Nyan heard these legends and couldn't believe it. After the apocalypse, how could there be a paradise? The businessman was kind to her and brought her to the Sunset Empire. After walking into the gorgeous castle, Yang Nyan was stunned. It was the time for the peach blossoms to bloom. The large number of peach blossoms and the fragrance of the flowers surrounded her. The people here all had gentle smiles and wore clothes that were more gorgeous and clean than many humans. She could see all kinds of green plants when she looked up. Every household had all kinds of fragrant flowers. There were small stalls on the street selling rare fruits that she couldn't eat for a week. In the shops, there were all kinds of dresses that dazzled her. They were even better than before the apocalypse. Did the apocalypse really happen here? This place was truly a paradise. You like it here? The merchant saw Yang Nyan's shock and took a deep breath. I've traveled extensively in order to move to the Sunset Empire one day. It's not easy to become a citizen of the Sunset Empire. However, Her Majesty does not reject talented people. If you want to come to the Sunset Empire, you don't have to rely on gold or resources. Her Majesty has countless treasures. Does the Sunset Empire lack resources? If you want to come here and become Her Majesty's subject, you have to rely on your brains. The merchant smiled and pointed at his head. I'm honored to be able to meet Her Majesty this time. I hope that this time, Her Majesty will see me in a new light. Yang Nyan suppressed the excitement in her heart. It would be great if she could live here forever. It's so beautiful here. She revealed a shy expression. I really want to live here. The businessman brought Yang Nyan to see the queen. Both the businessman and Yang Nyan were very excited. Today was Her Majesty's banquet for the world's talented people. No matter who it was, as long as they could prove that they had a skill and pass the examination, they could attend. So many people came. Yang Nyan had been sitting in the corner obediently until she saw someone. She couldn't help but stand up and call out, "Brother Su." Chapter 417. Su Ao was very familiar with this voice. Many years ago, when he heard this voice, he was very excited. Now, his reaction was normal, and there was no fluctuation in his heart. He turned around calmly and stared at the woman running over from afar. He raised his eyebrows slightly. The current Su Ao was no longer pale and didn't look like a normal person. Since advancing to level 7, he recovered his appearance and became even more handsome than before. In the Sunset Empire, countless women and female zombies went crazy for him. Yang Nyan was also shocked. She didn't expect to see Su Ao here, and he was still so handsome and a little evil. Brother Su, I'm Yang Nyan. She didn't see the familiar adoration in Su Ao's eyes. That cold and expressionless look made her panic. The businessman treated her well, but he only treated her as a good-looking plaything. How could she compare to someone as handsome as Su Ao, who liked her wholeheartedly? Thinking of how well Su Ao used to treat her, she couldn't help but want to abandon the businessman immediately and be with Su Ao. She didn't want to live the past few years anymore. I know, Su Ao said calmly. He saw the flicker in Yang Nyan's eyes clearly and sneered in his heart. He must have been blind in the past. Yang Nian stepped forward and grabbed Su Ao's hand. Brother Su, General Su, the banquet is about to start. A voice interrupted Yang Nian. She felt that the voice was somewhat familiar and couldn't help but look back. She was stunned again and murmured, Meng Zheng. Meng Zheng raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at Yang Nian. Then he seemed to recall something and a sly smile appeared on his lips. So it's you. Yang Nian let go of Su Ao's hand and couldn't help but take a step back. Her heart was in a mess. Su Ao was here, why was Meng Zheng here too? Wasn't Meng Zheng bitten by a zombie and turned into a zombie? Who was Meng Zheng? Meng Zheng was the original owner's boyfriend. When she transmigrated, Meng Zheng was fighting with zombies to protect the original owner. The original owner drove away. She didn't plan to go back and save Meng Zheng when she took over this body. According to the books she read, after Meng Zheng turned into a zombie, there was no follow-up. How could she take the risk to save someone who was going to die anyway? Su Ao and Meng Zheng looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. What a coincidence. They were both blind once. Speaking of which, both of them knew each other. Meng Zheng's father was the richest man in the province, and he was a high-profile second-generation heir. Su Ao's father was also a tycoon, but he kept a low profile and no one knew his true identity. Both of them liked Yang Nian at the same time, and Yang Nian chose Meng Zheng in the end. When the apocalypse came, Meng Zheng drove away the zombies to protect Yang Nian. He didn't expect Yang Nian to turn around and drive away. The food factory that Su Ao was in happened to be his family's food factory, and the zombies broke out at that time. Tang Guo had asked the system to monitor Yang Nian ever since she entered the Sunset Empire. She also saw this scene and couldn't help laughing. Is this the legendary Azura arena? Interesting. System, he didn't believe that the host didn't know Meng Zheng was Yang Nian's boyfriend. Even if the plot only mentioned a name, the host would never miss it. My Majesty, you look very happy. Shi Cheng came up and held Tang Guo's hand. He took the comb from the hairdresser and helped her comb her hair. Then he picked up the eyebrow pencil and helped her draw her eyebrows. In the end, he kissed her lips first before putting on a bright lipstick for her. Chapter 4:18. Tang Guo took a look at herself in the mirror. Our Cheng's makeup skills are getting better and better. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? It's a blissful thing to comb your lover's hair, put on makeup, and dress her. Shi Cheng pulled the woman into his arms and hugged her like a baby. Fortunately, I have a long life and can accompany you for a long time. Then I'll leave these things to our Cheng in the future. It's my honor, my dear Your Majesty, my Guogua. Your Majesty, Your Highness, it's time to go out, Wu Chu shouted softly outside. The people at the banquet had been waiting for a long time and finally saw the two of them. The noble queen and the cold and handsome prince. When the two of them stood together, it really felt like they were looking down on all living things. Yang Nian hid in the corner, her heart still in a mess. Meng Zheng's smile made her feel scared. Why was Su Ao called General Su? Then what was Meng Zheng's role in the Sunset Empire? The way Su Ao looked at her was different from before. Just as she was thinking, the businessman beside her patted her, indicating for her to stand up and bow to the queen. It was just a simple salute. Yang Nian, who was in a mess, had to pull herself together and look at the throne. What she saw scared her out of her wits. Tang Guo. She was Tang Guo. Why are you here? She could still remain calm in front of Su Ao. Even when facing Meng Zheng, she was only a little confused. However, when she saw the person who should have disappeared, the person whom she had always been wary of, standing in front of her and even sitting in the most honorable seat, all of her rationality dissipated. She couldn't help but shout, "Why are you here?" This shout attracted everyone's attention. Countless people noticed the beautiful woman in the corner. Their faces were pale, and their eyes widened in disbelief. They even murmured, "Tang Guo, you're Tang Guo. Why aren't you dead? Why are you still alive? Why are you still sitting in that position? Why? Why was this happening?" She thought that even if she didn't end up well, at least she had defeated Tang Guo. So what if Yang Yi knew the truth? Tang Guo was still dead. In the end, Tangguo was not dead. She was still the zombie queen. The merchant's expression was already ugly. If he had known that this kind of thing bought outside was not reliable, he would have regretted it very much. Why had he been so obsessed and brought Yang Nian in to see Her Majesty the Queen? Your Majesty, I'm very sorry. It's my fault. I'll take her away now. The merchant knew that once he offended Her Majesty, he would not have a good ending. Not being able to enter the Queen's eyes today was secondary. He was afraid that the Queen would hold a grudge against him. Tangguo rested her chin on her hand and smiled. No, it's none of your business. I know her. She's an old acquaintance. Listening to Her Majesty's calm tone, the merchant secretly pondered. Her Majesty did not seem angry. Her Majesty's tone was relaxed, and she seemed to be very happy. Have a seat. Make yourselves at home. Tangguo glanced at Yang Nian, who was still standing, and asked, Are you surprised that I'm here? Yang Nian clenched her fists. Tangguo, this was Tangguo. She was actually the queen of the Sunset Empire. This was really unbelievable. Was this the legendary irreversible female lead halo? She had snatched Tangguo's jade pendant, but the other party had become the zombie queen and ruled a country. She had become a supreme existence. Yang Nian was very confused. Was she wrong? No, she was not wrong. She just wanted to change her fate. Chapter 419. The entire banquet went very smoothly, except for the little episode with Yang Nian, which was a little surprising. Fortunately, the queen didn't care. Later, she admired the businessman's business talent and even gave him a public affirmation to move into the Sunset Empire. During this time, she didn't mention Yang Nian, nor did she ask the businessman to do anything to Yang Nian. It was as if Yang Nian was an insignificant person in her eyes. This made people sigh. No one could compare to the queen's magnanimity. System. Ha ha. Qin Jiaran. Ha ha ha. Shaoqing. Ha ha ha. How funny. Does the queen have magnanimity? After the banquet, Shi Cheng led his beloved queen back. Before leaving, he glanced at the distracted Yang Nian and smiled. He leaned close to Tangguo's ear and said, My queen is still so vengeful. Of course. Tangguo replied with a smile. If I don't hold grudges, then I'm not me. I'm the most vengeful person. I'll always find a way to take revenge on those who offend me. She wouldn't do anything to Yang Nian personally. With Yang Nian's personality, she would court death herself. As long as Yang Nian was a little smarter, she wouldn't fall for it. Even if she saw her today, she wouldn't say anything. But Yang Nian called out to her. She was a figure that countless people were curious about, but no one dared to analyze her past. So they would turn their attention to Yang Nian. What Yang Nian had done would soon be dug out. Her backer, the businessman, would immediately cut ties with Yang Nian for his own future. Su Ao might not have much resentment towards Yang Nian, but Meng Zheng didn't. With Meng Zheng's personality, he would definitely do something to make Yang Nian regret. Yang Nian had offended too many people and courted death too many times. She didn't need to do anything and lowered her status. Sure enough, after the banquet, many people began to ask about Yang Nian. Soon, who Yang Nian was and what she had done were dug out one by one. The businessman's face darkened when he saw this news. He had really brought a scourge in. Fortunately, the queen appreciated his talent and didn't mind Yang Nian. But he definitely couldn't keep Yang Nian. Just as he was about to get someone to send Yang Nian out, Meng Zheng came. I'm Yang Nian's ex-boyfriend. Are you interested in hearing a story? The merchant knew Meng Zheng, who was also one of the queen's right-hand men. He respectfully invited him in. Half an hour later, Meng Zheng left with a smile. That smile resembled their queen's. Another half an hour later, the merchant was very straightforward. He got someone to send her away. He had originally planned to give her some gold, but after hearing Meng Zheng's words, he chose to be colder. How could he dare to keep a woman with such a past who had harmed Her Majesty? Yang Nian left the Sunset Empire. She wanted to see Su Ao and Meng Zheng, but no one planned to see her. Along the way, she mixed in with all kinds of men. She lived a life without fresh fruits and vegetables every day. She couldn't help but think of the beauty of the Sunset Empire. She had always wanted to find a man who could live in the Sunset Empire. This time, she would not contact Tang Guo again. She would definitely hide her identity well. All she needed to do was to survive in that Xanadu. However, she never succeeded again. She drifted without a fixed place to stay. Fortunately, she had a beautiful face and wouldn't starve to death. When Yang Yi heard about Yang Nian, he only smiled and said, "Serves you right." Chapter 420. 10 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, the ecology of the entire planet could not recover. Through people's efforts, they quickly adapted to such an environment. However, on this planet, there was still a pure land that countless people wanted to squeeze into, and that was the Sunset Empire. Many countries were expanding, but only the Sunset Empire maintained its original size. Even so, no country dared to do anything to the Sunset Empire. The zombies in the Sunset Empire had all evolved. It was impossible to tell whether they were zombies or humans from their appearance. Moreover, the descendants of zombies were stronger than the first generation of zombies. The Sunset Empire's technology was also the world's leading technology. If a country wanted to do something, they would know immediately. Many countries still bought soil from the Sunset Empire. It was still very expensive, even more expensive than vegetables and fruits. However, they could only bear with it and choose to buy. The Sunset Empire still accepted talented people. There were spies from other countries who went in, but they never returned. They were not killed, but betrayed. What the traitor said was right. How could I do such a thing to harm such a beautiful paradise? The other countries did not believe it and continued to send in all kinds of talents. The Sunset Empire accepted them. When they realized it, they regretted it. The talents that they had painstakingly cultivated became the Sunset Empire's lackeys. It was really infuriating. 300 years had passed. The once beautiful Yang Nian had become a white-haired old woman. She had been with all kinds of men in her life and finally bought a house for herself. However, life was not easy. Endless loneliness and emptiness filled the entire empty house. Every day, after eating, she sat at the door in a daze. Her eyes were lifeless, like a corpse. Yang Yi was still the emperor of the Sunshine Empire. He had been conscientious for 300 years. With the medicine developed by pharmacists and his powerful superpower, he looked like he was only 30 years old. However, he knew that his body was aging. Every day, after he was done with his work, he would look in a certain direction for half a day. He still maintained it. He took some fever medicine for every meal. He always felt that it was the most delicious food. His staple food for every meal was rice and flour paste cooked with rice and flour. However, no matter how good the chef was, he could not make the same taste as he had eaten before. In the palace of the Sunset Empire, Shi Cheng was lying on the luxurious bed, holding Tang Guo's hand tightly. "I really can't outlive you, Your Majesty. Why are you saying all this?" Tang Guo caressed his handsome face and gave him a deep kiss. "You're still so adorable even when you're about to die." Shi Cheng was amused. He wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her into his arms. "What will you do after I leave?" "What else can I do? I'll naturally follow you." Shi Cheng's body stiffened. He looked at the woman in his arms in disbelief and met her sincere gaze. What she said was true. His hands could not help but tighten as he buried his head into her fair neck. "What do you mean I don't love you? Guogua, is what you said true? Really?" Shi Cheng was stunned. "Actually, Guogua can live forever. There's no point in living anymore. You still have the entire Sunset Empire." Tang Guo smiled. "That was just a whim. Without me, they can already protect this pure land." "What a whim. So the Sunset Empire was just a whim of hers?" "Guogua." "Yes. My Majesty. Say it. You won't be adorable if you keep nagging." Chapter 421. I really like Guogua. Shi Cheng hugged the woman in his arms tightly. "I love you so much. I wish that my life was as long as yours. I want to be by your side forever. Ah Cheng, You've become greedy and talkative. Ah Cheng, your image has collapsed. Tangguo caressed his eyes. But you're a little cute. You're so cute. Tangguo smiled and leaned into his ear. I can't help but tell you a secret. Shi Cheng's eyes lit up and he smiled lovingly. He kissed her cheek. What secret? Actually, I'm not her, Tangguo said softly in his ear. Shi Cheng was not surprised. He leaned into her ear and said, Actually, I know you're not her. The two of them looked into each other's eyes and smiled at the same time. There was no need to say anything else. They both understood. For the entire day and night, Shi Cheng did not close his eyes. When he was awake, he kept staring at the woman in his arms. He could not bear to part with her. He could not bear to part with her. As his consciousness became more and more blurry, his arms tightened. He was afraid that he would lose the woman in his arms and never find her again. In the end, he used all his strength and wanted to kiss those sweet lips again, but he could not get close. Just as he was about to give up, her soft lips pressed against his and the corners of his lips curled up. Almost instantly, his mind was in a mess. Countless memories surged out and he could not help but deepen the kiss at the last moment. The moment his consciousness fell into darkness, he heard a woman's voice. Who are you? But that's not important. You've successfully attracted my attention. You'll appear in the next world, right? I'm looking forward to what method you'll use to attract my attention. I suddenly feel that reincarnation is very interesting. You don't seem to have any memories. Most of the time, you can't help but court death. Fortunately, I'm a benevolent and vengeful person. I'll take revenge on whoever offends me. I won't leave them for the next world. He smiled helplessly in his heart. He could not say who he was, nor did he dare to say it. He had made a fatal mistake. He did not know if he would be beaten to death the day she regained her memories. He was not afraid of death. He was only afraid that she would turn around and leave without looking at him. Ah Guogua was very vengeful. Dear host, what did you discover? The system asked weakly. Tangguo gently caressed the man's face and chuckled. A familiar soul fluctuation. Every time he dies, there will be a very familiar soul fluctuation. I guess he should have memories at that time. Did the host mean that he, Shi Cheng, was the same person as those people from before? Based on my observations, it should be so. As long as the other party dies first, I should be able to sense a familiar soul fluctuation. Tangguo raised her eyebrows. Of course, I'm not curious about the other party's identity. As long as he's cute in every world, it's enough to attract me. The system shook its head. This host with no integrity didn't directly say, Man, you've already attracted my attention. You have to be careful from now on. Dear host, aren't you afraid of a conspiracy? Conspiracy? How can conspiracies be more important than having fun? This person is quite cute. He, who has no memories in every world, gives me pure love. I like him very much. As for conspiracies, we'll talk about them when I expose them. System, he understood. What you meant was that no matter what kind of conspiracy you had, he should first fall in love, enjoy, and let himself feel good before anything else. TSK, what a dog of a host. Chapter 422. Within a day, the news that the zombie queen had sacrificed herself for Prince Shi Cheng spread across the entire planet. Countless people were stunned when they heard the news. They couldn't believe it. The zombie queen had sacrificed herself for love. She hadn't asked anyone to prepare for it. She was too willful. No, she was a willful person to begin with. She was so powerful and had lived for at least 1,000 years. What kind of love could make her give up her life? When Yang Yi heard this news, his entire person collapsed. Had she sacrificed herself for Shi Cheng? His eyes were red and he covered his face in pain. If he hadn't asked for it, he would have been the one who had received such pure love. Monarch, people from the Sunset Empire are here. Invite them in. Yang Yi wiped the tears off his face and saw the people from the Sunset Empire. It was none other than Qin Jiaren. She handed a bottle of medicine to Yang Yi and said coldly, His Majesty asked me to give this to you before he left. He wants you to take it. Yang Yi took the medicine bottle. He didn't ask what it was. Even if it was poison, he could eat it now. I've given it to you. I'm leaving. Qin Jiaran turned to leave. Yang Yi hurriedly shouted, "Did she have any message for me?" "No." How could Her Majesty leave a message for an unimportant person? The prince was so annoying. He actually made Her Majesty abandon them. Yang Yi watched Qin Jiaran leave in disappointment. He clenched the medicine bottle and put it away. He quickly arranged all the matters in the Sunshine Empire. At night, he swallowed the light yellow pill in the bottle. He thought it was poison. He didn't expect the pill to be even more poisonous. It was a dream that he seemed to have experienced with his own eyes. There was him, Tangguo, and Yang Nian in the dream. But the Tangguo in the dream was different from the one he had experienced. She had been sliced up by the people of the Sunset Empire, but her strong recovery ability had allowed her to survive. Later, she had been released by Shecheng. She had been living among the zombies and hadn't created a zombie empire. When he was in danger, she was the one who saved him again. Many years later, the Sunshine Base had developed a drug to kill zombies. They had surrounded the last zombie mountain. He was the one who shot her in the head, and she faced him with a relieved smile, as if she didn't want to live anymore. He would never know that she was innocent. In the end, Shecheng tried to stop him, but he still tried to kill her. Ironically, he had been in love with Yang Nian for a lifetime. What a joke. A golden millet dream, a dream of the past and present. When Yang Yi woke up, his face was already covered in tears. He looked at the rising sun, but he didn't feel the slightest bit of warmth. He only felt cold all over. The system was speechless as it sensed its host's joyful mood. It had never seen its host lying in a heavenly spring and humming a tune. It was really seeing a ghost. But seeing his energy value rising, he couldn't help but hum along. It was quite happy. The host was happy, so it leveled up. Niang Niang, is the temperature of the water suitable? Tangguo shuddered when she heard a soft voice. She opened her eyes slightly and found that she was in the wooden tub. There was a layer of red rose petals floating on the surface of the water in the tub. It was really comfortable to soak in the warm water. She didn't care about her identity now. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. Not bad. She looked like a queen, and the maids behind her didn't notice anything strange. While the maids were watering her, she began to read the plot of this world and accept the memories. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.